Howdy folks, welcome back to Empyrion Update, and this is part 2. So this time we are going to look at a bunch more features. There's several cool new things here that I've got set up for you. So the first are temperature and radiation, and so if you see here, the generators will affect, if you look up here at the temperature reading, you will see that certain things bring your temperature up. Like the generators. The generators are very hot if you go too close to them, and probably do that in regular creative mode. And yeah, so you can get your temperature way up too high. You got to watch where you're going. I believe the thrusters are supposed to do the same thing on ships and stuff like that. And we also have radiation. Now you notice my temperature is going back down to normal. It is still a little buggy right now, and you will get weird fluctuations that don't quite make sense, but obviously they're working on that. And so now if you watch my radiation level, there are certain things that are radioactive, and one of them is the alien blocks, which is pretty cool. And one of the other things I believe is Arestrum and Promethium are both radioactive, and certain planets have different radioactivity levels, etc., etc. And another thing they have added is the armor boosters, and so we'll look at that here. Now what you have is you have up here different things that they're basically power-ups for your armor. So when you put these in your little booster slot, when you have to go to your armor locker in order to do this, you can put these in your booster slot, and as you see over here, if you watch over there when I add and subtract it, the numbers change. And I don't think anybody's figured out exactly which of these are supposed to be going up for good or down for good, or whichever way they're supposed to move. But obviously this is the first pass of the interface, and I'm sure they will improve that drastically. But yeah, these are all the boosts. So you have armor, jetpack, multi. So this does a bunch of things. And then you can do extra oxygen, insulation, radiation, and speed, and EVA, which I believe is for going out into space and not getting destroyed by that. So that is the armor boosts and the different armors. We'll check it out. I believe the different armors have different, yes, you can put 4 boosts on a heavy armor, and you can put 3 boosters on a medium armor. So there's differences in those, which is pretty cool. So the armors also have that different from them. And the other thing is you can keep in your armor locker, you can keep armor and that stuff in there. I don't think you can keep other blocks. If you can, nope, you can't. Okay, they have fixed that. All right, so that is the armor boost. And another thing they've added is some functionality. As you see here, press T to use, which for you, those of you who haven't changed all your keyboard around, it's F. But when you use these, you get a stamina boost for these. So as you see down here, it shows up, and it also shows up in your inventory here. And so now you can run and not lose any stamina. And I believe that works for quite a while too. And the bench does the same thing as far as the stamina boost. Next we have these showers, and both of these showers, when you use them, they reduce the effects of radiation, or are supposed to. I'm not sure if that's actually working yet, but those are supposed to do that. And then the toilet is supposed to reduce the effects of poison, or get rid of poison, food, and bad trip. And so those are some of the cool new uses of the decorational devices. And now what we also have is, and one of the coolest things, is the triggers and levers and stuff. And so if you look here, you have different kinds of levers, and so we're going to look at all the different kinds. And so what you can do is you use your use key again, and you can switch things on and off, and that includes lights and all kinds of stuff. And the way you do this is in the control panel, you set up your lever and you give it a channel that it's going to broadcast on, and then the light itself is going to do the same. So with the light, you select which one you want it to do, and it will follow on that channel. And you can also set it to toggle, and so every time you hit the light switch, it's going to change states. and you can also set the light to either just turn on whenever the switch is changed or turn off whenever the switch is changed. But with light switches, obviously you're going to want to do a follow type thing. And the other thing you can have here is the pressure plates. And so when you walk across the pressure plate, it triggers. So we have that, which is pretty cool. There we go. And the next thing, and let me turn that off. The next thing is the trap doors, which are pretty cool too. And what these do is when you step onto them, they go boom. And so yeah, you have you can make traps with that. And the next thing is the area sensor here. So if we look, this is a motion sensor, and let's go up here so we can get a nice good look at what this does. Now this motion sensor has an area, as you see the sides here and stuff, and so when you change these, you can make the area bigger and smaller, and you can change it on each side, etc., etc. So what I've got here is, as you can see, the gray blocks are where its borders or boundaries are, and so when we step in, the door opens. Step out, the door closes. And so we can we can make the door, we can control the door, we can make it open and close with triggers as well. So a lot of the devices can now be triggered, which is pretty exciting, and I think that includes the generators and fridges and constructors and all that stuff. And another type of the sensor here, and we'll back off again so we can see it, is this, and the light barrier. It's basically a laser trip, and so as you extend it out here, it gets longer and shorter. And so when you break this beam, what it does is we have the same thing where we can trigger stuff. And this is one of the other things up here. If we look in the things you can set, we've already looked at all of these. And this is the trapdoor anim. So the animated trapdoor, as you see here, it goes on and off, goes up and down. And the other thing you can do with that trapdoor, we will do this, go to the trapdoor, and you can invert. So with any of these things you can invert, and we'll do the same thing with the red light. You can invert it, and so now when you break the beam, it goes off instead of going on, and when you let go of the beam, it turns back on. And so we have that. And the last thing that we have here is this explosion block, and so we can set this to be triggered. When we get out of the beam first, we can set this to be triggered by the kaboom, which is our thing, and it's a one-time. So when we break this beam, boom, there we go. And so you can set up a bunch of those, and so you can do some demolition and that kind of stuff too. So that is all the triggers. Another thing they've changed is the medic station. You don't step into it anymore. You actually just use the use key and it automatically activates. If you fall too far in survival mode, you can now get a broken leg, which will show up here, and you have to use a medikit to cure it, and it actually affects your movement speed. It slows you down and you can't run. A couple of changes have been made to the blueprint factory. The first is that when you double click on a blueprint, it will show the information as far as POI stuff goes, so that you can set up your own POIs more easily. And the other thing is that the POIs themselves actually show up now in the list so that you can look at them, and in creative mode, that is, in creative mode you can spawn them as well. In the tech tree, the level has now been increased up to 25 for the max level to accommodate some of the new stuff, such as the furnace, and it looks like the artillery turret has been moved up to level 25 now. Another change involving the AI is that the alien turrets can now be turned off, including the indoor ones, and when they are off, the targeting AI for your turrets will not target the ones that are turned off, even when you have turrets selected. The SV doors have been updated and now include both the interior and exterior doors. Another new addition is patrol vessels. As you see here, there are capital vessels that are AI controlled, and they now patrol the skies of some planets, which is going to make things pretty dangerous if you don't have a way to defend yourself against those turrets on a flying vessel. The teleporters can now teleport to within the same base, a different teleporter within the same base. So what you do is on here, you can set the target to the name of the item at and the name of the base. And so when you do that, you teleport to upstairs. And this is the upstairs teleporter. And so we go back to the downstairs one, all inside the same base. When you start a new game, we now have scenarios, and what this is the solar system map and that sort of setup. And so these are now stored in separate subfolders so that you don't have to alter your default settings, your default solar system and all that in order to start a new game with a different galaxy and all that. And there is also custom Gamestart settings, and they've also added instances to playfields which apparently will enable some special missions and some more variety and that sort of thing. So I think we will get more details about that later, but that's about all there is for 6.0. Stay tuned for more updates and more Let's Plays, of course, and we will keep you up to date with what all is going on with the new experimentals and the release versions. Until then, enjoy your game. Later.